In 1970, a medical journal published a paper with a title that attracted very little scrutiny: Absorption of Iron from Chapati Made from Wheat Flour. This dense clinical report focused on a study involving 21 South Asian women living in Coventry, England. The author was Peter Elwood, a scientist looking for a way to treat iron deficiency anemia. He wanted to measure the precise rate at which the human body pulls iron from food into the bloodstream. At the time, once a patient swallowed a meal, there was no technology capable of observing the iron's progress through the digestive tract. The internal absorption process was essentially invisible to researchers. Elwood proposed a solution using Fe59, a radioactive isotope of iron. By replacing standard iron molecules with this glowing variant, he could turn a simple meal into a traceable substance. Fe59 is used in the nuclear power industry to measure the wear of heavy machinery. Because it emits gamma rays, its movement through a human subject can be tracked by external sensors, though the radiation also carries a risk of internal cellular damage. Under British medical ethics, administering any radioactive substance required a patient's full understanding of the health risks. Elwood realized that few healthy participants would volunteer for an experiment involving nuclear isotopes, creating a massive obstacle for his data collection. To complete the study, the research team began looking for a group of people who were medically accessible but socially isolated, subjects who lacked the resources to question the protocol of a government-funded experiment. In 1969, the search for those subjects led the researchers to the immigrant neighborhoods of Coventry, England. The city was home to many newly arrived South Asian families, including Pritam Kaur. Like many women in her community, Pritam was focused on raising her children and managing her home in a country where she didn't yet speak the language. The researchers identified these women as ideal subjects for 3 reasons. They suffered from anemia, they were isolated by a language barrier, and they held an absolute trust in their local Hindi-speaking doctor, Dr. J.U. Shah. Dr. Shah was recruited into the program. When Pritam and 20 other women sought treatment for fatigue, he diagnosed them and prescribed what he called a free health program, consisting of a special medicine. Relying on their doctor's word, the women agreed. The medicine was a daily chapati, a familiar staple of their diet, which the researchers had secretly laced with the radioactive F59 isotope. By using a cultural staple and a trusted medical authority, the team initiated a nuclear experiment inside the women's own kitchens, without ever mentioning the word radiation. The methodology was rigid. Every morning for 17 days, a delivery man arrived at the women's homes to hand over a fresh radioactive roti. Every afternoon, the team followed up with a phone call. The purpose wasn't to monitor the women's health or report side effects, but to confirm the roti had been eaten so the data remained viable. On the 18th day, the deliveries stopped. A van arrived to collect the women, telling them they were heading to a clinic for a routine checkup to see how the treatment was progressing. They were actually driven to Harwell, the United Kingdom's atomic energy research establishment. It was a high-security nuclear laboratory, not a hospital. Inside, the women were placed in front of massive whole-body radiation scanners. These industrial machines were designed to measure the gamma rays now emitting from the iron lodged inside the women's internal organs. Once the machines recorded the necessary numbers, the women were driven back to their homes. The research team never contacted them again to check on their health or share the results of the scans. Peter Elwood published his results in 1970, leading to a successful and decorated career. In his paper, the human subjects were anonymized and stripped of their history, referred to simply as 21 Indian ladies. Over the following years, several of these women developed severe, unexplained health issues, including aggressive cancers. They lived out their lives with no knowledge of the radioactive material they had ingested. The details remained hidden for 26 years, until filmmaker John Brownlow discovered Elwood's paper in 1995. He immediately noticed that the report failed to mention any record of patient consent. Brownlow conducted a door-to-door investigation in Coventry to find the nameless subjects. He eventually located Pritam Kaur and was the first person to explain the true nature of the experiment to her family. For the women involved, the trial provided no relief for their anemia. The actual legacy of the study was the clandestine administration of radioactive isotopes and a complete absence of the consent forms required by law. The Medical Research Council launched an inquiry in 1998, following the public outcry. Their report concluded that no rules were broken and the radiation dose was acceptable, even though they could not produce a single signed consent form. The case reached Parliament in 2023, yet there has still been no official apology or offer of compensation. To this day, 19 of the 21 women remain entirely unnamed in the official record. The Coventry experiment remains a stark example of how institutional progress can be built on the exploitation of marginalized bodies, using their vulnerability to gather data, and then intentionally omitting their names from the history of science.